Welcome to Healthcare Sucks.
World Health Organization. In the last hour or so, the WHO chief has urged all countries to invest urgently in preparedness. The number of people who've contracted the virus has more than doubled in South Korea. 229 new cases have been reported, taking the nationwide total to 433, with 2 fatalities. The government is urgently sending medical help to the city of Daegu. Health authorities in Iran have also reported another death, bringing its total to 5 people killed, with nearly 30 infections. They're largely centred around the Shia Muslim holy city of Qum. Well, infected travellers from Iran have been reported in Lebanon and Canada. Meanwhile, a second death from the virus has been reported in Italy. The outbreak has spread in its northern region of Lombardy, with 30 confirmed cases. Well, we've got 3 correspondents across the developments in this story. Shortly, we'll head to Wayne Hay in Hong Kong. Dosa Jabari is standing by for us in Tehran. But first, we're joined by Rob McBride in Daegu, South Korea. Rob, a very concerning situation in South Korea, given the sharp rise in numbers of confirmed cases.
That's right, these latest figures do make for very grim reading, once more showing a doubling. Just basically a pattern now has been established over the past few days that we have a doubling each day, it seems. This time last night, Friday, we were talking about just over 200 cases in South Korea. We're now talking about well over 400. And the focus still is very much on this area, Daegu, and the adjoining Cheongdo County, where we have a number, about half of all of the cases are now reported to be members of this one church community. So that's the focus at the moment, is trying to screen and test all of the thousands of members of this church. And it has to be said that around 1,000 of them have reported flu-like symptoms. So we can expect, sadly, many more people from this congregation potentially to test positive for the coronavirus. Around 100 or so of the number are also from a hospital in Cheongdo, where it seems there is a link between the cluster here in Daegu and the neighboring county. Somehow there has been a cross-infection into that hospital, which has spread very rapidly through the patients there and also the staff. It is having a profound impact on this corner of South Korea. It has brought pretty much economic activity in the city of Daegu to a standstill. You don't see many people out on the streets. Also has an impact further afield. We've just heard, for example, that a Samsung electronics factory just outside of this city has decided to close. One of its staff has come down with the coronavirus. So it does have this knock-on impact. If there is one positive aspect, then it is that health officials are reporting that although we are seeing cases now throughout South Korea, other cases tend to be small, isolated, single individuals who have come down, who have been taken sick, and have somehow had some link with this area of South Korea. So luckily, hopefully what we are not seeing so far is other clusters cropping up in other parts of the country. So the health officials will be hoping that the measures they've taken have so far prevented that from happening, although that's small comfort for the people in this part of South Korea who are going through this at the moment.
Rob McBride there in Daegu, South Korea. Thank you very much indeed. Now, it's nearly 4 weeks since the Hubei province, the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak, went into lockdown. Al Jazeera's Katrina Yu spoke to residents living in Wuhan.
1 month after Wuhan sealed off its borders, its roads are empty and construction sites are abandoned. The city's millions of residents have been ordered to stay indoors. Among them, Mark Liu and his son.
Clap your hands, stomp your feet.
Clap your hands, stomp your feet.
With schools across China closed until further notice, Eason is taking classes online. Through a video call, Mark told us his family was doing its best to adapt to life under lockdown.
And how have you been coping with the restrictions?
I think the lockdown is necessary. Friends of people I know and some of my colleagues have been infected. and some died a few days after they found out they caught the virus. So I'm really worried for my family. All we can do is to stay at home.
Residents had been permitted to leave their residential compounds once every 7 days. But this week, loudspeakers placed on street corners notified households of a change.
From now on, nobody can go out. The previous allowance for going out every 7 days has been cancelled.
Lining up to collect food at local pickup points is now for many the only outing for the day. Special teams have been deployed to deliver supplies. They're among the few still permitted to drive around the city. Cici Zhu is one of them.
Every day I'm in contact with those who live in my community. I need to know how many people live in one household and check the temperature twice a day.
Cici says food distribution in Wuhan has improved since the beginning of the lockdown, and most people seem to support the new measures.
By sealing off the community, we can isolate the unhealthy people from healthy people. Our strategy now is early detection and early isolation.
A makeshift hospital nicknamed the Wuhan Living Room has become home for thousands infected by the virus. Those who don't come voluntarily are brought by force. Mark Leo knows the coronavirus crisis will eventually pass, but worries about the stigma Wuhan residents may endure.
The virus originated in Wuhan, but Wuhan people didn't create it. I hope they don't keep a bias against us. They shouldn't blame everything on Wuhan people.
So far, 7-year-old Eason isn't too worried. His wish, for now, is being allowed again to play outside. Katrina Yu, Al Jazeera, Beijing.
That's a glimpse inside life in the city of Wuhan. Let's get more now from Wayne Hay. He's in Hong Kong for us. Wayne, the Chinese are striking a much more cautious tone than they were a few days ago. Just tell us more about how this outbreak is developing.
Yes, well, obviously a lot of concern expressed from the World Health Organization in that latest media conference led by the Director General. One of the concerns, he says, is that their window to contain this virus is closing quickly. Now, what he's referring to is the fact that up until now, as we know, most of the confirmed cases of coronavirus are happening in mainland China, in fact, mainly in Hubei province where the outbreak began. But the concern is that that is changing and changing quickly as we see more and more cases pop up in different countries around the world. As we heard a few minutes ago, those concerning cases occurring in South Korea, other cases popping up in the Middle East and beyond. So the concern from the WHO is that that possibly is going to get worse in the days and weeks ahead. And therefore, as the Director General put it, the window to contain this virus is going to get more and more difficult, if not impossible. And we could then see a situation where the WHO comes under pressure to declare this a pandemic. Certainly, there is no sign of that happening at the moment. The other concern the WHO has raised is exactly how this virus is being transmitted from person to person, with more and more cases, according to the Director General, popping up of people contracting the virus who have not knowingly gone to an affected area, mainly, of course, Hubei province in China, or they haven't knowingly come into direct contact with someone who is already infected with the virus. So in other words, more cases of people being infected with coronavirus, but not knowing exactly where or how they contracted it. So that is one of the other areas that the WHO is getting increasingly concerned by. Another interesting line that's come out of Hubei province from the local government there, they are saying that they have found a 70-year-old man who contracted coronavirus but showed no symptoms until 27 days later. So that throws all sorts of questions about the incubation period, which up until now is presumed to have been around 14 days at the maximum. So if this is confirmed, obviously that raises another series of questions about the incubation period.
Okay, Wayne Hay for us live in Hong Kong for now. Thank you. Let's go live now to Dorsa Jabari in Tehran, where there's also cause for concern there, Dorsa. Another fatality reported not too long ago. How is the government coping with the outbreak?
Well, I think they're taking it one day at a time. As it appears, the health ministry is trying to caution people from traveling to the holy city of Qom, which is about 130 kilometers south of the capital, Tehran. They believe that the virus originated there from a Chinese national who's working in that city. And that city is now under heavy watch because the officials there have said that people should restrict their movements. They have said that all holy visits to the sites there should be limited for the time being. We've also heard from the health ministry officials here in the capital who say that there is a mayor in District 13 of Tehran, that's in the east of the city, who has been tested positive for the virus, and he is now in hospital, and that has resulted in the city council shutting down for the next week or so. The officials have also said that all pilgrimage trips to Iraq have been canceled. They only resumed late last week after 4 months of a stop in those trips as a result of the ongoing protests in Iraq. So that is also continuing. The officials have said that they've closed all land crossings with Iraq as well. There's 5 of them between Iran and Iraq. For now, officials are saying people need to exercise caution in their movements. And also, we've heard that the number of cases that have been infected, that have been confirmed, has gone up to 28. 2 of those are in Tehran and the other 8 in the city of Qom.
Okay, Dosa Jabbar, they're live from the Iranian capital. Thank you very much indeed. Well, as we've been reporting, there is a growing number of people outside of China getting sick. This is a virus tracker from Johns Hopkins University in the US. It gives a good picture of the spread of the outbreak. There are now almost 78,000 cases around the globe.
We know that more than 80% of patients have mild disease and will recover. But the other 20% of patients have severe or critical disease, ranging from shortness of breath to septic shock and multi-organ failure. These patients require intensive care using equipment such as respiratory support machines that are, as you know, in short supply in many
I'm just gonna
countries.
say, guys, it's just it's spreading fast. I'm trying. This is all live news, so I'm gonna send this to you as is, and this will be our last broadcast till later today.
Is it time now to call this a pandemic? We are seeing alarming statements coming from the WHO. Those viruses cases are spreading beyond China. What's the next step with this?
I think whether we call this a pandemic or not is basically a technicality. The fact that it has spread to many different countries, and some countries that have less resources to handle this outbreak, is very concerning. So in many of us don't feel that whether they call it a pandemic or not is going to make a difference in how we approach this outbreak.
Well, how should we be approaching this outbreak then? Because many people worldwide are very, very concerned by this virus, which is killing large numbers of people.
Pandemic.
So how should we be preparing and tackling this virus?
I think in the developed countries, they've done all the right things. And you've seen in Lebanon, in Canada, in British Columbia, Canada, they're able to detect rapidly cases that came from Iran, a place that was not expected to have high numbers of coronavirus, as opposed to people from China, where everybody is wary of travelers from that region. So I think there is that heightened level of awareness all around the globe, at least in the more developed countries. So now it's time to focus on the other regions of the country that may be less prepared. And this is a sign that everyone has to step up.
But we're aware of this virus, but just in practical terms, for viewers who are watching this at home and are concerned about, how do I protect myself personally against this virus? Do we need to lock down entire cities the way has been done in China, or is there very little risk to, for example, a healthy, active 35-year-old male? Just give us some tangible, concrete steps that viewers can use to protect themselves from this virus.
So there's certainly things that are done at the public health level that are important for containing the outbreak. And then those have to do with the extent of the outbreak in that region. So different regions may impose different measures, such as quarantines or even lockdown of entire cities to contain the outbreak, if it's warranted based on what they're finding in that region. for the regular person that's not in one of those affected regions, I think we have to keep in mind that 99% of the cases are confined to China and a few other places. In the places that have very few cases, your chance of contracting that virus is close to zero.
Okay. In terms of what happens if someone contracts this virus, because we're hearing a lot of technical language coming out, a mortality rate of such and such a percent and going up and down. We still in reality know very
That's
little
what
about
South
this.
Korea
How deadly
thought.
is this? Should people be very, very worried?
One person
Or
in the
are we
church, now it's
overreacting?
over 1,000 people.
Well, I wouldn't call this virus as deadly as the SARS virus or the MERS virus, but definitely it is of concern because the estimates of its case fatality is somewhere between 0.1% and 2%. That's actually quite a wide range.
Yeah.
But all of those numbers are more than what we would expect from seasonal
4%.
influenza. So seasonal influenza has a case fatality rate of around 0.1%. So this is at least as bad as flu. So we should have at least as much concern about this as we have for the influenza virus.
Now, we're still all playing catch up a little bit, but how would you rate the response thus far? Because we've seen a cruise ship coming under lockdown, being quarantined for 14 days, and yet people have come off the ship and have still managed to be incubating this virus and passing it on to others. Do you think we've underestimated the quarantine, the amount of time people should or should not be in quarantine? Or do you even think that there's little chance of quarantining a virus that we effectively don't know anything about? 27 days we were hearing about that case in Wuhan. How effective is this quarantine?
Well, in a rapidly revolving outbreak, it's very easy to criticize actions in hindsight. We always know what happens afterwards. And if they had taken stronger measures, they might have also been criticized for that as well, too.
Don't you believe it? It's not the truth.
Definitely there were things that many of us regard as missteps in this outbreak that allowed it to spread and to get to the point where we are right now.
Okay, hindsight, as they say, is 2020. For now, Dr. Patrick Tan, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your expertise. Now, the WHO...
And with that, me and my little buddy on my shoulder here is saying, did you believe it? But what shouldn't you believe? Which part of it is up to you. Because we have sent you several things. We brought you live morning video here. It seems like all these paid mouthpieces don't want to say when it comes to how bad it's going to get or the deaths or whatever, the words for now. For now. For now it's not this. For now it's not that. And while the numbers they're giving us may show that it's 99% quarantined over there or 99% rampant over there, with the numbers they're giving us, that's right, they're not telling the truth. I think you're right. So with that, it's just we're gonna have to decide who and what we believe. And as always, we use the FAIR Act on TV recordings to bring to you what's really going on out there. And with that, love you guys. Stay safe. And if you heard any noise and ruckuses while we were recording tonight, I have a dog. It's always in my room. And usually she's pretty good, but she's having the 2 o'clock in the morning devil dog attack and wanting to play and fight. And then, of course, Spud here. Spud! Wanted to come and made the scene. So with that, remember, my friends, healthcare